Was good with y'all? It's your boy AD, and to be honest, Mortal Kombat revolutionized the story mode for fighting games just because of the simple fact that other fighting games could not make bare story modes with little to no layers for replayability, because then people would just call it trash compared to the bar that Mortal Kombat has set. And speaking of the bar that Mortal Kombat has set, Mortal Kombat 11, in my opinion, is probably the best story that NetherRealm has put out so far. If you wasn't already able to tell by the thumbnail, this video is going to be about Mortal Kombat 11 story mode and just details in general. I can't really get into with the whole review because it goes into spoilers, but with this video I'm going to everything spoiler related. So if you haven't played the story mode for Mortal Kombat 11, then I'll just save this video and come back, or if you don't really care about spoilers in the video, then feel free to stay and listen to me talk about the spoilers in the story mode, because that's all I'm about to talk about. And speaking on the story is a mix between the younger and older generation of the Mortal Kombat franchise, because some characters come back as their younger selves and some are the current age, which Johnny and Sonya have a kid, but the younger versions of Johnny and Sonya don't. So that whole dynamic between them seeing what they become is just a tool that is frequently used throughout this story mode. And speaking on gameplay, it takes 6 to 10 hours to complete the campaign, depending on how good you are in the difficulty settings, which is you can set from easy to hard. Which, to be honest, the difficulty settings to me really don't matter until you get to Chronica, but I'll explain why I say that further in this video. Also, there's 12 chapters throughout this whole story. Before I get further into spoiler territory for Mortal Kombat 11, make sure to leave a like, comment, and subscribe, as that lets me know if you like the video, and also share it to help my channel grow. First thing I'm gonna get into with my spoiler talk is Chronica. Now, Chronica is the newest boss of the Mortal Kombat franchise, and she's a person that controls time and apparently is the mother to all the elder gods, which I'll explain in a second. So for Chronica, she's the main bad of this story, and she's the reason why everything is the way it is, and why there are so many different versions of characters in this game. And also, this story may be confusing for people who don't really pay attention to the Mortal Kombat franchise. But I'm not going to talk about the whole story. I'm just going to talk about the key points and basically the moments that I think was important. So I'm going to come back to Raiden to talk about the younger version. But first we start off with Evil Raiden. And in this story mode, I thought he looked really cool, but the way they used him, it was kind of short. Like, after he was done torturing Shinnok, they went to take something from Revenant, Katana, and Liu Kang, which Revenant is a throwback to Mortal Kombat 10, and it's the Revenant because Shinnok turned some of the current versions of our characters that we know into evil versions of themselves. So for that, they call that a Revenant. So I like the callback from Mortal Kombat X to still keep the Revenants in the game. But my review on Evil Raiden is he looked really cool, but they didn't use him for as much as the stories I thought they would. I thought he was gonna be like the evil Superman, kind of like in Injustice 2, how evil Superman was a thing throughout the whole story, but towards the end he got better. This one was more of Evil Raiden for like 30 minutes throughout the 6 to 10 plus hour story. I thought that was a missed opportunity. Also, elder gods, which I talked about earlier in this video, are just higher power beings that just look over the NetherRealm universe, I guess. So they're like the watchers of the NetherRealm, and they just sit up there and I guess not do anything. And I don't really know what to compare them to, but it was just kind of weird how they had all this power, but somebody else who had more power than them was doing way more, and they just had to sit there. But that was kind of confusing to me. But anyways, another important part of the story was probably Sonya dying in the Cassie mission when she was fighting Liu Kang and Katana, and it was on the same mission where Evil Raiden was holding off the whole army, the whole Revenant army, while Cassie and them just had to go in and infiltrate and get something and get out. But it didn't go like that. Sonya died. Cassie was sad. But for me, I didn't really care that much, so I knew Sonya would be coming back just because of the voice actor being the UFC fighter Ronda Rousey. I knew she was coming back because they're just not gonna waste her as a voice talent like that, because they advertised her being the voice of Sonya so much that I knew that she was coming back. So that didn't really faze me, even though it was supposed to be an emotional part of the story. So speaking of coming back, when all of the younger versions of the characters came back, you really could see the nostalgia look and how it's progressed until now, because certain characters act the same way that they were like they just came out of the tournament. If y'all know what the tournament is, it's how the whole Mortal Kombat franchise even started. It was just based off a tournament with characters fighting each other. And when they came back into the now universe because of Chronica, you know, talking about this really makes me understand how confusing this storyline actually is. But it's really not that confusing if you get into it. Maybe some parts may be confusing, but basically Chronica shifts time to where the younger versions come back into the present. So basically the past versions of the characters come back into the present, and you see Shao Kahn, you see a bunch of other characters coming back like Jade, and the dynamic off of Shao Kahn and Kodokan that makes a return from MKX is very highlighted in this story mode. Like the way that Shao Kahn looks at Kodokan and just wants to take his throne back was a really good rivalry and motive for Shao Kahn to want to take out Kodo, in my my opinion. And also an important part in this story was Liu Kang and Kung Lao, because it was kind of like a Shaolin monks moment going back to the previous Mortal Kombat game. In the fight against Garrus, you see it in the trailer. They cut off his head and he comes back to life, you know, because they said that was easy, but then he comes back to life. That whole section with Liu Kang and Kung Lao, I didn't really care about, because I really don't care about any of those characters. That's kind of messed up, but not really, because I mean, you play a fighting games for certain, like you have your favorites in fighting games and you have your least favorites, and for me, Liu Kang and Kung Lao just don't really do it for me. But Garrus was a really cool addition, and the first time you get to fight Garrus, you get to find out that he can't die, essentially. Like, he comes back like Deadpool every single time, except instead of blood going everywhere, it's sand. Now, I mean, he still bleeds, but he uses sand to come back. So that whole section for me was really hit or miss, but it was just, Garrus really saved it for me. But moving on to Sub-Zero and Scorpion, this was probably the weirdest part of the story for me, because the dynamic between current Scorpion and Sub-Zero, it's just weird to know how friendly it is in the story mode, but they're really supposed to be like arch enemies. But I guess they made up. They talk about this in the story mode, like the previous versions of Kung Lao and Liu Kang will ask who's taking on this mission, and Raiden will say, the current Raiden will say Sub-Zero and Scorpion, and then they'll just look at each other like, what? Because like, you're just so used to Scorpion and being rivals, but in this game they're like kind of friends or best friends. I don't know. It's just weird to me. But they run into Frost, one of the new characters in the game, and Noob Saibot, my favorite character in the game, if I haven't said that enough already. But Noob Saibot really plays off the fact that Sub-Zero and Scorpion are friends by saying he would never let Scorpion's kind into the Lin Kuei, which makes sense, but Scorpion and Sub-Zero never let Noob Saibot affect them, and they take down him and Frost pretty easily. And Frost in this game, now just not talking about the story, because Frost in the story was a good tool for her purpose. Like, she was just to serve Chronica, so for that she was good. But in gameplay wise, for her to be a new character and be so bad, like for moves and special moveset, and I don't know if I just haven't played a good Frost yet, but playing with Frost and learning her strings and combos, she just doesn't really have any good combos or nothing like that. And all her combos don't do a lot of damage. I mean, they can do a lot of damage if you do like a 40, but you have to go crazy with her for her to do a lot of damage. But with most characters in the game, you can go moderate amount of combos to get the same amount of damage. So I don't think Frost is that good in the game. Besides the far-reaching combos, Frost is not really that good in Mortal Kombat 11. And Sub-Zero and Scorpion also run into Cyrax and Sector, which is not playable in the actual game. You just play against them in the story mode, which is kind of weird because they make a whole character model for Sector and Cyrax, but not gonna have them in the game. Like, maybe they'll put them in, but if we have to pay for them when we've already seen them in the story mode, then that wouldn't make sense to me. Because I know DLC, most of them, they haven't even put the character models in the game yet, so those make sense. But if Sector and Cyrax are already in the game, then why can't we play them, and why do we have to pay for them? Same thing for Shiva. We see Shiva throughout the story, which is like the female Goro, but we can't play her or we can't play against her, but she's probably gonna be DLC. So I think what makes more sense is to not show them and then have them in DLC, because if you show them, then we already know the character models are in the game, so you're having us pay for something that's already in the game. But you never know, they may not have the fatal blows or the super moves like listed down for them. I will give NetherRealm the benefit of the doubt, but some of the troubles they've been going through with people claiming that they're trying to microtransaction the consumers to death, so I'm not really gonna give them the benefit of the doubt with that. Kind of another important arc in this story mode is Jade, and I say that because I never knew that her and Kodo were close or together with that whatever before she went away as a revenant. But when she comes back and sees Kodo Khan, then they just pick up where they left off with the relationship. So that was weird to me, but I don't know if they just put that in just because, or if they really, I don't know. I mean, I know NetherRealm probably just put that in because there's no way that Kodo Khan was always with Jade. Throughout her arc, you see her and Kodo go through the relationship struggles, like Kodo Khan being a conqueror. He's very aggressive in his ways of taking out other armies because he doesn't trust most other species. Like, they run into Baraka's species, which is called a certain name, but I forgot. The Baraka's army. Basically, Jade tells him that he should spare some of them because throughout the infiltration, some of them was helping her break them free, because some of the Tarkatans in the game are actually good, but for the sake of the story mode, you know, Jade and Kodo Khan has to fight because you have to get your certain matches in with each character. So they fight, but then they make up. So Jade's arc was pretty cool, but not important throughout the story. Now, the dynamic that had most of my favorite moments in the story mode is probably younger Johnny coming face to face with the current Johnny. Because if you've been with Mortal Kombat, the way that Johnny has grown throughout the series is like, it's unlike any other character in this franchise. Besides Scorpion, because he turned from bad to good. So I guess he had a pretty good arc. But the Johnny arc in this franchise is unlike any other, in my opinion. And when they're talking about certain things about Sonya and Cassie and how Johnny and Sonya got together, and younger Johnny would just blurt out and say something. He would just say crazy stuff and then try to make it okay by saying that we're gonna get together in the future, so I might as well say it now. It was just crazy stuff that younger Johnny was saying. The current Johnny had to teach him a lesson. So they fight in this game. Of course, the current Johnny wins, but this is probably the first time they introduced the weird thing in the story where if the younger version gets hurt, then the older version gets the same scar or whatever. Because Aaron Black and Cabal and them infiltrates Johnny's army base with Cassie and Jackie and all of them there. When they're shooting it out, younger Johnny gets hit in the face, but older Johnny gets the same cut, which is weird to me because they don't really keep that same time travel law throughout the whole story mode. But since it's a NetherRealm game, I'm not really gonna harp on it. But if they really want to pay attention to time traveling, then they should really be consistent throughout the whole story mode. Like if you fight the younger version of a character, then the current version will come to save the younger version, but then wouldn't the current version be messed up because you beat up the younger version? Like, you see how the time travel laws that they try to put in place doesn't make any sense? But I don't know, they may be confusing, but for me it was really obvious that they don't really need to do that going forward in the future. I don't even know what the future is gonna be now, but I'm getting to that. Basically, a lot of matchups in this story makes the story mode feels complex because you go from Scorpion to Sub-Zero, you go from Jade to Johnny, you go from Johnny to Katana versus Scarlet, which Scarlet basically is Shao Kahn's servant, like a Shao Kahn slave, because Shao Kahn gave her blood-bending abilities, so she served Shao Kahn without asking any questions. So that little dynamic was kind of weird to me. I thought Scarlet would be more of a complex character, but the way she just talked about how she wanted to serve Shao Kahn was kind of offsetting to me. Also, my last time going back to Sonya, with Sonya and Cassie, this is the younger version of Sonya, so she's kind of like the sister to Cassie because they're around the same age now. The whole dynamic with that was pretty cool because Cassie would talk about how you used to be my mom, but now you look more like my sister, because the current version died, of course. That was the same thing with Jax and Jackie. Like when the younger version of Jax came back, who was Jackie's father, Jackie will look at Jax and be like, you look like my older brother now, but my dad is at home because he's mourning over his wife that died. And the time travel, like, how do you tell the younger Jax that and he not like mess up the time? I don't know. Anyway, it's like really confusing, but hopefully they fix it going forward. I don't even know what they're gonna do with this time travel. That whole dynamic in the story is not as confusing as I may be explaining it now, but it was really cool to come across certain interactions with the younger and current versions of the characters. Now, speaking of Jax and Jackie, they're actually the first time we get to fight Centurion, which is the only playable Elder God in Mortal Kombat 11. Basically, you're going to get this crown that Karnika needs to enhance her powers. So Jax and Jackie goes there to take it first. They end up getting it from Noob Saibot showing up again, and he gets beat up again. Like, Noob Saibot goes down pretty easy in the story mode. But then you come face to face with Centurion, and Centurion's no joke, so Jackie puts on, you can either use Jax or Jackie. I use Jackie. She put on a crown. Actually, I don't even know if you can use Jax against Centurion, because Jackie actually puts on the crown. I don't know if Jax will actually want to put on a crown just to fight an Elder God, but I guess if it needs it, but I wouldn't want to do it. When it catch me fighting with a crown, Centurion shows up, basically has the powers of everything Earth related. She has so many powers in this game, it's kind of OP, but the way they play it out is very convincing. Like, when she loses, you understand why she lost. So Jackie puts on the crown and beats her, but then Centurion comes back and actually wins and takes the crown from Jackie by opening up the ground and having her about to die, and then Jax has to make a decision on if he wants to keep fighting and let her die or give up the crown. So Jax, younger version of Jax, ends up giving up the crown. The older version of Jax is throughout this whole sequence, but like, he's just a servant to Karnika now because he was at home mourning his wife. Karnika shows up and now he's her servant, so that whole plot just didn't make sense to me, that whole arc, so I just skipped over it. Like, the older Jax should just end up being Karnika's servant and ended up turning out to be good once he realized what he was doing was crazy, but that whole arc was just bad to me, so I don't really want to talk about it. Now, probably the biggest twist in this whole story was older Scorpion dying, because I didn't see that coming. And when we got to play Scorpion again, because it's a NetherRealm game, so you know that has to happen. When the older Scorpion died, it made me realize why we played Scorpion again, just to play with the younger version. The younger version had a different set of move lists, because in actual combat for Mortal Kombat 11, they have different special abilities that you can mix and match, but you only get 3 slots. So with this younger version of Scorpion, he had different powers, so it was like playing a different Scorpion, but still felt kind of weird because With older Scorpion being dead, I guess this is the Scorpion we're gonna be stuck with now going to the future. But basically, he goes back. Older Scorpion had to tell Raiden something, so he told the younger Scorpion to tell Raiden. Scorpion goes back to tell Raiden. Raiden doesn't believe him because he's the good Raiden from the tournament, and he remembers Scorpion from the tournament because he's the reason that Noob Saibot exists, because Noob Saibot was the original Sub-Zero, and he killed the original Sub-Zero when he swore to Raiden he wouldn't. So Raiden doesn't believe him. You end up fighting Raiden. I think Scorpion, either Raiden or Scorpion wins, because there's a little switch between Scorpion and Raiden. I'm finna beat Raiden, and then they tell you you're playing as Raiden, and you're like, well, Scorpion's telling the truth, and now I gotta beat him up. So it was just nice the way they flipped that. But then Raiden and Liu Kang fights, because Liu Kang sees that Raiden starts using the amulet, which turns him evil. But the younger version of Raiden didn't want to use the amulet, so he swore that he wouldn't use it because it will turn him evil. But then he starts using it when he fights Scorpion unknowingly. So Liu Kang points it out. Raiden doesn't want to stop, so Liu Kang and Raiden fights, and then Raiden's about to win, and then this flashback comes where him and Liu Kang are fighting over and over and over. And basically he finds out that Kronika is the reason for them fighting, because she wants them to take each other out, because I guess together they're too powerful for her or something like that. This story is kind of crazy. But then I thought that whole dynamic was pretty cool. The way they played it out with Liu Kang and Raiden fighting each other, like it was just different versions of them, and they do little flashbacks so you can see each version wearing something different, and so it was pretty cool how they did that. And as far as the gear, it was pretty cool how they switched it up throughout the story mode in general. So basically, they find out Kronika's plan. Raiden stops turning to his current self and eventually realizes how he breaks the cycle, and they all get together to go fight Kronika. And basically the end is Liu Kang and Raiden coming together or some sort. I don't know, it sounds weird when I say that, but like they form to be one person, but I guess he just has his powers because he just looks like Liu Kang. But then Raiden's gone, so like it's Raiden, I don't know, I don't want to think about it. But basically they form like Power Rangers, and now he's Fire God Liu Kang, and he starts beating up everybody. He goes, confronts Kronika, and this is the part where I'm talking about where the difficulty really matters, because I feel like if you put it on hard and you fight Kronika at the end, I don't even know if you'll be able to win, because Kronika just teleports all across the map, sends dinosaurs, I'm not joking, she sends little dinosaurs running across the map that knocks you out, and then she uses these little balls, this time ball that like if you jump when it hits you, it's pretty cool looking, but it reverses you back to where you jump from, and then she just gets a free hit on you because it freezes you when you get to where you jump. So Kronika in the story mode is very OP, and there's a reason why she's not playable in the main roster. Whenever she gets the crown, like Liu Kang wins and he knocks the crown off of her. So I'm thinking like, is there a version of Kronika without the crown that's not OP that could be playable in the roster, or they're just doing that so she seems more of a boss? And like Shinnok had his evil version, but then he had his regular version that you could play in the main roster so you could be playable for tournaments and stuff. But if Kronika doesn't have a crown, does that work the same, or is Kronika just gonna be an all-out boss that you can't play as? Speaking of bosses, not having Shao Kahn do as much damage, like the OP damage he used to do back in the day, really, like, it's not weird, but yeah, it's weird just for me, because I remember the OG playing Shao Kahn and he would take like half your health bar with a shoulder charge, and now you're doing full combo strings for like only 30% damage. But I don't know, that was just my little tangent. So to wrap up the story, apparently Liu Kang just hits the reset button on the MK timeline. I don't know where they lead from here, and I don't even know if they're gonna keep on going with the same characters, or if they're just gonna start a whole new Mortal Kombat story, because at this point they really wrapped up everything pretty good. You never know with NetherRealm. Let me know down in the comment section below, what do you think's next for NetherRealm, and do you believe that Mortal Kombat 11, the story mode, is the best story mode throughout the franchise, or do you believe some of the previous story modes were better? Also, let me know how you like this story mode review with spoilers, because this is my first one, so I may have missed something, I may have accidentally skipped it, or I may have not talked about an important key part in the story just because I forgot about it. But if I did, let me know in the comment section down below, as this is my first one, so I'm gonna keep getting better over time, hopefully. So yeah, that's it for the video. If you enjoyed this, make sure to let me know by hitting that like button, subscribe, and share this with your friend, neighbor, dog, or just send this to the person across the street playing the training and story mode first before hopping online, because without them, this wouldn't be possible. And with that, I'm out.